The Lynette Brown Show. This be the Lynette Brown Show.
She's always ready and on time.
The Lynette Brown Show.
When you got something that's on your mind.
The Lynette Brown Show.
Whatever you got going on, she knows the deal.
The Lynette Brown Show.
Where we always keep it real.
Good morning and welcome to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show of the South. Woo! I am the fiery diva, keeping the airwaves hot on your favorite station. Thank you guys for tuning in with me once again. Got a nice show lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen. We are continuing my Black History program. Yes, February is long gone. However, I had to give you guys the end of the Emmitt Till story. I know people were calling and texting, wanting to know what happened. Well, stay tuned. Later on in the show, I will let you know exactly what happened. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back right after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
Hey folks, welcome to Eddie Pruitt Ford right here in Hartselle, Alabama, where our gigantic year-end clearance sale is underway. That's going to mean great savings to you on every new and used car and truck on the lot. And in addition to that, what we've got now is something you're going to love. That's a lifetime powertrain warranty. Any new or used car or truck that you buy at Eddie Pruitt Ford, free of charge, no price to you, lifetime powertrain warranty, only at Eddie Pruitt Ford. If you want to buy a new Ford car or truck, save money, and get great protection, you do it right here at Eddie Pruitt Ford.
The Lynette Brown Show is brought to you in parts by Alabama A&M University. Call for registration 256-372-5245. Again, that number is 256-372-5245, home of the Bulldog.
Welcome back to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show of the South. I am the fiery diva, keeping the airwaves hot on your favorite station. Thank you guys for tuning in with me once again, ladies and gentlemen. Got a nice show lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen, but I've got a couple of announcements that I need to make before we actually go into my program. Want to remind you of the soup kitchen. Yep, the William Council Soup Kitchen will be tomorrow from 1 until 3. So if you know someone elderly, disabled, or have children, tell them to come see me 1 until 3 at the Richard Shower Center on Blue Springs Road. That's Huntsville, Alabama. And we've got Rising Suns Lodge presents the third annual Hooked on Decatur. It's a bass fishing tournament, ladies and gentlemen. And it's going to be at the Ingalls Harbor in Decatur, Alabama. So they've got a lot of prizes. I mean, I think it's like a $2,000 cash giveaway. Deepa don't know how to fish, not like that, but I may need to go and try to win that money. But that is the Rising Suns Lodge at 29 in Decatur, Alabama, and that is going on March the 29th, and it's from 5 a.m. until 3 p.m., okay? But we're going to go into the show, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what you're going to see is Charles Evers. You're going to see a little of Charles and hear a little of him. And for those who don't know Charles Evers, he is the brother of Medgar Evers. Okay, you remember the civil rights leader? Yeah, Medgar Evers in Jackson, Mississippi. And I used to work for Mr. Charles when I was in Jackson. Yeah, Diva had a radio show. And his radio station, I used to have my show on there. I used to do a live show right there in Jackson. So, you know, I couldn't do Black History without including Mr. Charles and Mr. Evers. Mr. Medgar Evers, excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and listen to that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back right at this. Don't go anywhere.
Memorial services were held for Miss Anne Marie Duran Saturday, February 22nd at St. Joseph Catholic Church. Miss Duran's cherished memories will remain forever in the hearts of her loved ones. She is survived by her husband, Jesse Duran of Huntsville, Alabama. show do not reflect the views of the network or production.
Literally had to ride in the back of buses or public transportation.
We couldn't get a drink of water because how thirsty we were unless we found that colored water fountain. We couldn't get a drink of water out of a fountain. Our school time was from 4 to 6 months a year. And we had no busing. There were no buses that bused us to school. We had to walk to school 3, 4, 5 miles, whatever distance we lived from the school.
African Americans were forced to live in certain communities, and they had to develop within that community. And there was not much difference between segregation in the South and apartheid in South Africa.
Life for blacks was one of seclusion and of being in every way, shape, and form treated as less than human, less than equal.
Blacks in those days it was against the law to say yes and no to white folks. And if didn't, then you could be beaten and even killed for saying yeah and not calling him by his name.
African Americans had no protection from the law because in most cases they could not vote. And if you cannot vote for the sheriff or the police officers or the mayor, then they do not have to loan any type of assistance to you. And therefore, the African American lived in this constant fear of something happening to them and they're not being able to react.
My brother was beaten almost to death in Jackson because he went to Walgreens and sat down to have a Sunday or whatever he ordered. They beat him almost on the muscle right here in Jackson. I guess I can't really describe how impoverished it was. No matter how wealthy you were as black, there weren't many wealthy people anyway. But those who had a little money, they were no different. You're just another nigger.
Lynette Brown Show.
This be the Lynette Brown Show.
She's always ready and on time.
The Lynette Brown Show.
When you got something that's on your
The Lynette
mind,
Brown Show.
whatever you got going on, she knows the
The
deal.
Lynette Brown Show.
Well, we always keep it real.
Welcome back to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show of the South. I am the Fiery Diva, keeping the airwaves hot on your favorite station. Time winding down just a little bit, but not quite yet. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go right into this footage because I don't have much time, but I had people calling and texting like, Diva, you didn't give us enough information. You didn't tell us what happened. What happened with these guys in Emmitt? What was the ending of it? So anyway, your wish is granted. I am going to show you that, and I want to say hello to a loyal viewer I knew absolutely nothing about. She lives in Guntersville. I'm not going to call her name, but she lives in Guntersville, and she is of another race. And she was letting me know that she really enjoyed this Black History because it was things that she didn't know, and she wants to hear a little more on the LBS. So I want to thank all of you guys for all of your support and the love that you show the Diva. Okay, but we're going to go right into Emmitt and see what happened. What was the conclusion of all of this debacle that went on many years ago? Actually, it hasn't been that many years ago because he would have been about the same age as my dad. So it wasn't like slavery days, ladies and gentlemen. This has not been that long ago. So let's just go ahead and go into the Emmitt story. We'll be back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Opinions expressed in this show do not reflect the views of the network or production.
Mainstream newspapers and magazines spread the story of the 14-year-old black boy who'd been brutally killed for whistling at a white woman.
It stunned white America. Most white Americans at that time were saying things such as the Emmitt Till murder had happened back in slavery times, that these kinds of things were not of their generation, that they no longer happened in America. And this said to them clearly, hey, it's right here, it is now.
Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam admitted having taken Emmitt Till, but claimed they'd let him go. The Till case had become a major international news story. Under the glare of the spotlight, white Mississippians began to close ranks. Local stores collected $10,000 in countertop jars for Bryant and Milam. Every lawyer in the county joined their defense team.
People of the socioeconomic level of the two defendants in this case were obviously looked down on by the more aristocratic whites, almost with the same disdain that they looked down on blacks, but they were still white folks. And when push came to shove, the white community rallied in support of them against a young black person for whom they had even greater disdain.
The atmosphere among whites in Tallahatchie County and the whole surrounding area was one of absolute scorn at the fact that these men were being put on trial for their lives. And the cynicism was usually couched in very crude jokes. One of them was, isn't that just like a nigger to swim across the Tallahatchie River with a gin fan around his neck?
On September 19th, less than 3 weeks after Emmitt's body was found, Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam's trial for murder opened in Sumner, Mississippi, which touted itself as a good place to raise a boy. The air in the courtroom, a reporter wrote, was as heavy and oppressive as the moss that hangs from the cypress trees.
In the courtroom, they recorded 118 degrees. And of course, there was no air conditioning. They had the ceiling fans that were only stirring the air up, making it hotter when it reached your body.
On the first day of the trial, presiding Judge Curtis Swango named the jury, all white men from Bryant and Milam's home county.
I remember looking at that jury, and even though I knew a good many of the men who were on the jury, and they looked mean to me, I would have hated to have gone up against any of those guys.
Tallahatchie County Sheriff and plantation owner Clarence Strider was responsible for locating witnesses and gathering evidence against Bryant and Milam.
Sheriff Strider was a big, fat, plain-talking, obscene-talking sheriff you would expect to find in the South. His actions at the trial were more, I think, he was not so much to seek justice of what was going on, but to be sure that his courtroom was totally segregated.
The man had laid it out that we got 22 seats over here for you white boys, and we got 4 seats over here for you colored boys. We don't mix them down here. We ain't gonna mix them, and we don't intend to. You ain't gonna be with the white folks, and the white folks ain't gonna be with you, and y'all might be speaking, but ain't gonna be no love nest between black and white folk.
Strider consigned black reporters and Detroit Congressman Charles Diggs to a card table on the sidelines. Strider greeted them as he passed with a cheery, "Hello, niggas."
We never have any trouble until some of our southern niggas go up north and NAACP talks to them and they come back home. If they will keep their nose and mouths out of our business, we'll be able to do more when enforcing the laws of Tallahatchie County and Mississippi.
The reaction of reporters from out of the South was one of just absolute amazement. They knew that there were strange things going on down in places like Sumner, but they did not know it would be quite like that. They were really surprised at what they found. At the same time, of course, they wrote about it with great relish because it was a good story. It had sex, it had murder, it had mystery.
When Mamie Till arrived, she had to make her way through an unsympathetic crowd gathered on the courthouse lawn.
What do you intend to do here today?
To answer any questions that the
attorneys might ask me to answer.
How do you think you could possibly be a help to them?
I don't know. I mean, just by answering whatever questions that they ask me.
Do you have any evidence bearing on this case?
I do know that this is my son.
Mamie Till testified that the body she'd examined and buried was indeed her son. In their cross-examination, Bryant and Milam's attorneys peppered her with hostile questions and then presented the main argument for the defense. The corpse pulled from the Tallahatchie River was not Emmitt Till.
They summed up by saying, isn't it true that you and the NAACP got your heads together and you came down here and with their help you all dug up a body and you have claimed that body to be your son? Isn't it true that your son is in Detroit, Michigan with his grandfather right now?
With Sheriff Strider and courtroom sentiment clearly on the side of the defendants, reporters began their own desperate search for witnesses.
Black people wasn't speaking out about the Emmitt Till case at that particular time because they knew that it could happen to them. The blacks feared for their lives and for their family life because those white folks were for real. So it was just like hush hush, So I was told to keep my mouth shut, and that's what I did.
2 days into the trial, reporters got a lead on a young sharecropper named Willie Reed, who might be willing to talk.
I was in the cotton field, and I was picking cotton. And I looked across the field, and there was about 7 or 8 people coming across the field toward me. It was white and black coming that way. And then they began to question me about this here. Did you see anything? So I told them what I saw.
Putting his life at risk, Willie Reed agreed to step forward.
Well, when you walk in that courtroom, and there you gonna testify. Then you look at all these white folks and everybody looking at you, and they got their frowns on their face and everything. You see them, they be looking at you, rolling their eyes looking at you. Yeah, white, looking at you. It was something.
Reed spoke in a voice barely louder than a whisper. He'd seen Roy Bryant, J.W. Milam, and one other white man with Emmitt Till early that Sunday morning, and had heard the sounds of a beating coming from Milam's shed. After delivering his testimony, Reed was smuggled out of Mississippi. When he reached Chicago, he was hospitalized with a nervous breakdown. The prosecution's best witness was Mose Wright, who had clearly seen the men who took Emmitt Till from his home. Wright had been in hiding since the night of the kidnapping and had been threatened with death. But there, in the searing heat of a Delta courtroom, the 64-year-old sharecropper had his say.
One of the attorneys asked, "Do you know the man that came to your house at night to get Emmitt Till out of your house?"
Mose Wright stood and pointed first at Roy Bryant, then at J.W. Milam. "Thar he said. Wright later claimed he could feel the blood boil in hundreds of white people in the courtroom. But, he said, I had decided to tell it like it was.
That was a dramatic moment. And it took an awful lot of courage for him to get up there and do what he did. I think he had decided that he was going to do it no matter what happened.
After he testified, Wright left his cotton blooming in the field, his old car sitting at the station, and slipped onto the train to Chicago. He would never again live in Mississippi. The trial drew to a close after only 5 days. In his summation, the lead defense attorney warned members of the jury that their ancestors would turn over in their graves if Bryant and Milam were found guilty. Every last Anglo-Saxon one of you, he said, has the courage to free these men.
As the jury retired, the black people who were standing around the walls began to ease out of the door. I said, it's time for us to go. Congressman Diggs said, what? I missed the verdict? I said, Congressman, this is one verdict you don't want to be present to hear.
The crowd in the courtroom waited in the heat. Reporters overheard members of the jury laughing and joking in the jury room. In just over an hour, the jury returned.
In the Emmitt murder trial, the all-white jury has acquitted the two white defendants accused of killing the 14-year-old Negro youth. The jury foreman said the deciding factor was the state's failure to prove the identity of the body pulled from a river near Sumner, Mississippi.
A juror later revealed that the jury had stalled to make it look good. They wouldn't have taken so long to return to the courtroom, he said, if they hadn't stopped to drink pop.
The verdict came in not guilty. You could hear guns firing. I mean, it was almost like a 4th of July celebration. Or it was almost as if the White Sox had won the pennant in the city of Chicago. It was just, it was a mess.
After the trial, Sheriff Clarence Strider told reporters, I hope the Chicago niggas and the NAACP are satisfied.
People are used to doing things normal around here. And they just tried to run the thing. They thought they could run over the judge and the sheriff and everybody over there. They thought that they, could just take over. But they didn't.
How do you folks feel now that it's all over? Roy, how about you?
I'm just glad it's over with.
JW?
I am too.
Mrs. Bryant,
Feel fine.
how about you, Mrs. Milam?
Reports of the acquittal made front-page headlines across the United States and set off an international firestorm. The life of a Negro in Mississippi, one European paper observed, is not worth a whistle. From Boston to Los Angeles, black people packed meeting halls and spilled into the streets to hear Mamie Till tell her story.
And what I saw was a shame before God and man. And the way the jury chose to believe the ridiculous stories of the defense attorneys. I just can't go into detail to tell you the silly things, the stupid things that were brought up as probabilities, and they swallowed it like a fish swallows a hook. Just anything, just any excuse to acquit these two men.
Protected from further prosecution, Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam sold their story to a reporter from Look magazine for $4,000. Their account appeared just 4 months after the acquittal.
We took them and we was just going to whip them, scare some sense into them. Back of the house is a tool shed. 2 rooms about 12 feet square. We walked them in there and took turns smashing them across the head with the .45. First my brother, and then me. We put them back in the truck. We knew what we was going to do. There's a spot about 1.5 miles from the bridge where the banks are steep. It was just a spot. I held up the gun. I fired and the Chicago boy twisted around and caught it right in the ear. We tied the gin fan to his neck with barbed wire and rolled his body into 20 feet of muddy water. For 3 hours that morning, we had a big old fire in the yard. Damn if that nigger didn't have crepe-sole shoes. You know how hard they are to burn?
If there were others involved, as Willie Reed and Mose Wright had testified under oath, Milam and Bryant did not name them. Mamie Till went to Washington to press the federal government to reopen the case. Despite thousands of letters protesting Mississippi's handling of the murder, President Dwight Eisenhower and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover ruled out a federal investigation. Eisenhower didn't even answer Mamie Till's telegram. No one ever did time for the killing of the 14-year-old black boy from Chicago.
We don't steal, we don't gamble, we don't lie, and we don't cheat. And that also deprives the government of revenue, because you can't get into a whiskey bottle without getting past the government seal. You can't open a deck of cards without getting past the government seal. There's a white man makes the whiskey and then puts you in jail for getting drunk. Sells you the cards and the dice and puts you in jail when he catches you using it. So he's against us because we fix it where he can't catch you anymore. We take the dice out of your hands and the cards out of your hands and the whiskey out of your head. The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. And as Muslims, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to respect our women and to protect our women. And the only time a Muslim really gets real violent is when someone goes to molest his woman. We will kill you for our woman. I'm making it plain, yes. We will kill you for our woman. We believe that if the white man will do whatever is necessary to see that his woman gets respect and protection, then you and I will never be recognized as men until we stand up like men and place the same penalty over the head of anyone who puts his filthy hands out to put in the direction of our women.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show of the South. I am the Fiery Diva, keeping the airwaves hot on your favorite station. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you of the Soup Kitchen tomorrow. That will be at the Richard Shower Center from 1 until 3. So if you have children or know someone elderly or disabled, tell us to come and see us and come and get them a hot lunch. But I have got to go. Thank you so much for tuning in to the LBS. Text me right now. Don't have time for Diva I Want It, but if you text me right now, I do have a gift card to Applebee's. Yep, I've got a gift card to Applebee's, and I have one to the Olive Garden. Tell me what you like about the LBS, or just tell me what you want to see on the LBS, and this card is yours. Thank you so much for tuning in to the LBS, the hottest, the biggest, the baddest talk show.
Like I wanna cuss, mad because how they treated us. But if I do that and put it on the track, then I can't take it back, so I'd rather not. I'd rather keep it clean, but still keep it G, while preserving the legacy of CC. A part of me, a part of we, a part of us, a part of them, a part of her, a part of him, a part of Tim, a part of Kim, a part of Sean, a part of Vaughn, a part of Carrie, a part of Mary, a part of Sammy, a part of Tammy, a part of Skeeter, part of Rikita, a part of Clyde, and all the others who have died. Both of my grannies, including Miss Fanny. We are one, consider all of my family. See, I learned CC love from both Ruby and Anthony. They didn't let us vote. Perhaps they knew me and my folk would vote nope. Potentially why